Welcome everybody and good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us today as we're making this exciting announcement of another $30 million committed to housing here in Vermont. I first want to recognize some of our key partners that are here with us today, and starting with Hula and the Hula team. Thank you so much for hosting us in your beautiful space. I also want to thank legislators who are here today, Senator Martine Gulick and Representative Brian Cena, I see. If there are other legislators, thank you very much for being here. Of course, Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek and City Council President Ben Travers and all of the City Council members that are joining us here today from Burlington. Also want to thank Maura Collins from VHFA, Sarah Furman from the Heritage Family Credit Union, and I'm looking out and seeing a few of our other partners as well, including Joan Goldstein from the Vermont Economic Development Authority, who we make a number of investments through, and also Alex Farrell, the Commissioner of Housing. Thank you so much for being here. And I see Moreau Weinberger as well from Let's Build Homes, so thank you as well, Moreau, for being here and the support for this Hula project as well. You know, when I first ran for treasurer back in 2023, we made a goal of visiting every single town in Vermont. I wanted to get out into the community and hear from folks from Brattleboro to Burlington, from Bennington to the Kingdom, and hear about what are the issues they were facing in their communities. And time again, every town we visited, no matter how big or how small, no matter if it was an urban or rural town, the conversation that kept coming up was about the shortage of housing in that community. They talked about how housing was simply too expensive. They talked about how there wasn't any housing available for them in their community. And they talked about how the high prices were pricing people out of Vermont, young people, working people, people that were older. All people really could not find housing. The stories took many forms as we went and visited different communities. We heard from business owners who said they'd like to expand their business, but they can't because they can't find workers, because those workers can't find housing. We talked to senior citizens who talked about how they wanted to downsize from their current home, but they couldn't do that because there was literally no options available for them in their communities. And we talked to a lot of community leaders and a lot of municipal leaders who said homelessness is as bad as it has ever been in our town, and we need to do something about it. All of these experiences made it very clear to me as I took office that housing needed to be my top priority. And the housing shortage that we're experiencing here in Vermont didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen by accident. It's the result of policy choices, many of those policy choices made before many of us in this room were even alive, and due to market failure. And for too long, we simply didn't build enough housing in our state, and every single day we're continuing to live with those consequences. The good news is, even though today is Groundhog Day, we do not have to keep making those repeated mistakes over and over. We can make different choices, and that's exactly why we're here today. Today we're announcing another $30 million in critical housing investments to help move the needle forward on Vermont's housing shortage. These investments will support over 450 homes across the state, adding hundreds of new units of housing stock to Vermont. Additionally, the projects that we're investing in will leverage another $200 million of private and public capital, sparking further investment in our cities, downtowns, and rural communities, unlocking their full potential for generations to come. And a number of the investments that we're making today are the first phase of a much larger development vision. So these investments have the potential to unlock many, many more homes into the future. We're making these investments today through our 10% in Vermont program, which enables our team in the Treasurer's Office to invest up to 10% of the state's cash balance into the Vermont economy. The funds issued through low-interest loans offset the high interest rates that developers are facing, which would otherwise make the project difficult, if not impossible, to break ground. It's a direct investment into Vermont's future, lowering costs, strengthening families, and growing our economy, importantly, all without adding a dime to Vermonters' tax bills. In our first term as treasurer, we expanded this program's capacity by over $100 million and dedicated the investment to housing across the state. And today we're seeing those investments pay off. through a $56 million partnership with VHFA. These dollars have been invested in over 20 communities across Vermont, with dozens of Vermonters already moved into their new homes and hundreds of more units currently being built. In Vergennes, we invested in the expansion of the Vergennes Grand, and I see Dan and Rebecca here with us today, a senior living community that included space for moderate and low-income Vermonters. The expanded wing of the facility is offering 65 new units of assisted living senior housing, ensuring that older Vermonters can age in their community, do it safely around loved ones, and have the care and the services that they need. We prioritize senior housing whenever we can because the benefit is twofold. It meets the current need of older Vermonters while freeing up homes better suited for workers, young people, and families. In Rutland, we partnered with Heritage Family Credit Union and the city of Rutland to invest in that city, which has some of the oldest housing stock in Vermont. We recently toured one project that was previously a vacant office space and has now been converted into a 6-condominium apartment unit, with every single unit leased before construction was complete, strengthening Rutland's workforce and local economy. We had the opportunity to meet one of the tenants who had moved from out of state, loved the Rutland community, and was working at the local hospital. So he was able to find housing as a result. And in St. Johnsbury, there are now 9 new units of housing fully leased by teachers and hospital workers in an old community hall that had sat unused for years. These are just an example of some of the investments we made and the success that we're having across Vermont. But based on that success, we decided this year to again expand the 10% in Vermont program because we do not want to leave a single dollar on the table when Vermont is dealing with such a significant housing crisis. The $30 million we're announcing today builds on that work, supporting affordable housing, market rate housing, senior, climate resilient, and home ownership housing all across Vermont. Today, we're making investments into 2 of the largest developments in Burlington, right here at Hula, and also Cambrian Rise, up the way in the north end. But we're also investing across the state, with each investment advancing Vermont's housing goals in various ways. We're making investments into senior living in Grand Isle, affordable housing in Heinsberg, workforce housing in Vergennes, infill development in Fairleigh, and flood resilient housing in Barre. And we will have additional announcements in the week to come about some additional investments we're making in southern Vermont. In closing, I just want to focus on a specific investment that we're making out of this $30 million and the reason that we're here today at Hula, which is the Ride Your Bike project, the first phase of a transformational vision for Burlington's South End. We're proud to commit today $8 million to support this project, which represents a stronger future for Burlington, rooted in community, in connection, and in opportunity. In a moment, you'll hear from Russ Scully, Hula's founder, who will share more about how they're bringing that vision to life. But I just want to mention a couple of things about this project. You know, our dollars are so impactful when they can be the first dollar into a vision or the last dollar into a vision to close out the financing and the transaction. In that first round, we came in many projects at the end because interest rates had gone way up, costs of housing and supplies and labor had gone way up, and we're able to be the last dollar in to allow a project to go forward. In this round, there are a number of examples, including right here at the Hula project, where we're an early investor. We want to get the momentum moving in the right direction so the project can build steam, build momentum, and get completed. The other thing I want to mention about the project here at Hula and the vision that Russ has, you know, you think about the space that we're in and how amazing it is and all the businesses that operate here that wouldn't operate here otherwise, all the connections, all the experienced team members and board members and lawyers and service providers. That's great, and businesses and entrepreneurs need that. But right now in Vermont, more than additional VC financing, more than additional great community space, more than experienced board members, these businesses need housing to be able to grow and to expand. It is critical for them. So this is going to not only support more housing generally in the Burlington community, but it's going to support these businesses to be successful, driving economic growth, providing good paying jobs, and creating a really virtuous cycle of success. The last thing I want to mention, and turning it over to the mayor, you know, one of the things we look at when we're thinking about investing in a community is also what does the local leadership look like? Is local leadership committed to the vision of the city or the town. And here in Burlington, I want to thank the mayor for her leadership, her commitment to deciding to build more housing in Vermont's largest city. It's really critical that we build more housing here in Burlington because it's the only way ultimately we're going to build enough units to work our way out of the housing crisis we find ourselves in. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mayor Mulvaney-Stanek, again thanking her for her leadership and vision on this project and in housing generally in Burlington. Mayor, thank you.
It's always like a game of Tetris with all of your mics up here, so I want to make sure I don't knock them over. But thank you so much, Treasurer Pieciak, and welcome to Burlington, and thank you for that warm introduction. And thank you, of course, for your leadership and being here in the city today to talk about housing, one of our most critical needs here, not only in Burlington, but for the entire state. I also want to thank, I don't want to repeat all of your gratitudes and thank yous, but I'll mention a couple here. I always want to thank the team here at Hula for hosting important conversations and your work on the South End, which I'll speak to in just a minute. Russ and your team have been really wonderful to work with and a really strong new partner in how we continue to tackle housing in the city. I also want to acknowledge we have a few city councilors. So Councilor Carpenter is here, City Council President Travers is here. Oh, there you are, Sarah, back there. And Councilor Broadwick is also here. We have a few legislators, I think were mentioned before, so I won't repeat your name, legislators. And then housing partners who are really critical for any small city, even though we are the largest in the state. So I want to acknowledge Michael Monti, a longtime partner for the city of Burlington from Champlain Housing Trust. Alex Farrell, who is our commissioner for the state, of course, for housing and community development. Also the work that former Mayor Murrow Weinberger has done as a leader here for many years and now moving on to housing. And Burlington School District I saw come in. So I also want to acknowledge these folks because all of us are either employers or residents or neighbors and know what a housing crisis we're facing here in Burlington and elsewhere in the state. Burlington is grateful to be part of the second round of investments through the 10% in Vermont program, which is supporting housing projects, as you heard, from across the state, including two major ones here in the city of Burlington. It's the Secord project here in the South End and Cambrian Rise in the new North End. Like communities across Vermont, Burlington is facing intense housing pressures. Rents are high, supply is tight, and too many working people are struggling to find a place to live that fits their lives and their budgets. Meeting this challenge does not come down to one single policy or a single project. It actually requires multiple tools working together, and that includes state investment, city leadership, private development, and strong community partnerships. Today's announcement is a great example of what kind of alignment can look like in this and when this is put in practice. The Ride Your Bike Building Project is the first phase of the South End Coordinated Redevelopment, or CCORD, one of the most ambitious housing efforts in Burlington has undertaken in a generation. Phase 1 will deliver over 200 houses, homes, units, including at least 20% permanently affordable units. I want to say that again because that's the standard we have to set here in Burlington, 20% permanently affordable units, alongside community and creative spaces that reflects the South End's identity and starts to create a new, innovative neighborhood. Projects like this are complex, prioritizing affordability while carrying significant upfront infrastructure costs. So state tools like 10% in Vermont make a critical difference by closing real financing gaps and helping these projects move forward. In mid-January, I announced Burlington's housing strategy, grounded in a simple principle. The city must take an active role in shaping housing outcomes, not just regulating them. And this housing policy needs to be people-led and centered. That means using public land thoughtfully and in alignment with our community values as a city. It means partnering with mission-aligned developers. It also means modernizing our tools. We've had some amazing innovative tools that were innovative 40 years ago, but we need to continue to modernize them so they work for today's market and reality. And we also need to democratize it. I tell my staff I want this word in here every time I talk about it because we also have to think about individuals and small developers and ways to build individual wealth to be able to accelerate housing and infill here in the city. And this means as a city, we need to remove barriers and become facilitators on how people can access housing as renters and homeowners, but also develop that housing alongside us. So Secord, in partnership with the Jonathan Rose companies, reflect this approach. It is a city-led partnership between the public and private sectors designed around long-term community benefit, not just short-term gains. Importantly, it reflects the kind of housing that people want and need here in the South End. Burlington's work does not happen in isolation. At the city level, we are advancing the CHIP program, the Community and Housing Infrastructure Program, to help finance streets, utilities, and shared infrastructure for housing projects that meet clear city expectations, such as affordability, scale, and public benefit, just like CCORD, but these are often too costly for individual projects to carry alone. At the same time, the state is stepping up through initiatives like 10% in Vermont, which provides low-cost capital, as you heard, and efforts to build an inventory of state land for housing, signaling a more proactive public role statewide. We are also being intentional about how city-owned land can support future housing phases, making sure public land, infrastructure planning, and financing tools are aligned before projects come forward. Together, these efforts reflect a shared understanding that housing is a result of deliberate planning, investment, and coordination. It happens when land, infrastructure, capital, and public leadership move all in the same direction. Burlington is proud to be a place where these tools are starting to come together in a coordinated way. And I want to thank the project teams who are doing the hard work of turning this vision into reality. I have a lot of city staff in the room today. I want to appreciate CEDO, BCA, Burlington School District, even though I won't give you a shout out again, even though you're not a department of us, a really strong partner, because I mean, teachers and staff need places to live just like everyone else, right? And so finally, the Treasurer's announcement today is not just one about investment or one project. It's about building momentum and confidence that we can truly solve the housing crisis here together. Burlington is ready to keep working with the state, with developers and community partners to deliver housing that is inclusive, affordable, sustainable, and rooted in place. Thank you very much. That's it.
Well, thank you very much to the mayor. Now we will hear from Maura Collins, the executive director of VHFA. Maura.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Maura Collins. I'm the executive director of the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, which sounds a lot like a bunch of other organizations in the state, but we are unique in being a 50-year-old institution, quasi-governmental agency that does lending for affordable housing. So it is exciting to be here today and to see such a conglomeration of partners who I've worked with over the 25 years I've been at VHFA. And it's because VHFA used to focus on a very narrow part of the income band. I was not always invited to places as fancy as Hula and with some of you fancy people, because the housing work and the needs are really concentrated based on income. And so VHFA's focus has been on the lowest income among us, meaning that we've known for a long time that if you are without a home, if you're living on disability income, if you're living in poverty, generational poverty, that you have always struggled to pay your rent, pay your housing cost, trying to put transportation together with your doctor's appointments and where you live and all that. And sadly, for too long, we have accepted that this group of people at the bottom income, that is their reality and there's nothing we can do about it. And then we started to see that college graduates, good four-year programs, they were struggling to move out of our basements and find places to live. Then we started finding good mid-level workers earning a good salary, still couldn't find a place to buy. Then they couldn't find a place to rent. And now we hear about the medical center and others who are paying six-figure salaries to folks who cannot find a place to live, rent, or buy. And so it is impacting, the housing shortage is impacting this state in a growing and growing way. And as the treasurer has been so clear throughout his terms, it is impacting every element of our economy. It is holding back growth, it is holding back businesses, it is holding back our communities, and we have to do something about it. But it's so exciting to be in Vermont, where when I go to national conferences and I tell them about the 10% in Vermont program, it is mind-blowing to see their reactions. And I want to make sure everyone understood exactly what the treasurer laid out of what we're doing here. The state of Vermont, the leadership of the legislature years ago, decided to allow the state treasurer to earn a little less on what it would earn on the state's deposits, just for 10% of what they hold in that magic bank account somewhere. And if they earn just a little less on that, that can be invested in our communities, in housing, in energy efficiency, in economic development, in the kind of things that will have a multiplier effect. And so this has existed for many years, and a lot of us have benefited from this program. But the influx of deposits in the state's bank account and the pushing up to 10% has allowed us to go farther. And so VHFA is a proud partner to have over $50 million of this money that is going out through to address home ownership, creation and building homes for people to purchase, rental housing. We're touching flood-impacted communities, manufactured homes, and knowing that there's not one single silver bullet that can address all of our housing needs, but trying to spread this across the state broadly. But I also want to be clear that I don't do any of that, okay? My job is that I'm willing to stand with a microphone in my face and in front of cameras because that's my role here. But the real work is the work being done by my team. I have Deb Flannery here joining me, but also many more folks hard at work at their offices a few blocks away. But I also love seeing the room we have gathered today because I see builders and I see partners who are doing the actual work. And at the end of the day, the financing tools are critical to doing more of that actual work. So thank you for letting me do this part today, but more so, thank you for all of you who are actually making the units come online. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Maura. And as Maura mentioned, VHFA has been a key partner with us, and they will continue to be a key partner with 5 of the investments that we're making of this $30 million being run through VHFA. So they continue to have a real impact with our 10% in Vermont money. I next want to turn over to Sarah Furman, who is the Chief Lending Officer of Heritage Family Credit Union, who I mentioned earlier has been a big partner with us in the city of Rutland.
Thank you. So Roofs Over Rutland is a great example of the 10% in Vermont program doing exactly what it was designed to do. With the state's low-cost funding, we were able to offer affordable loans to the local developers. The creative local minds and the state's willingness to do something new is what made nearly 80 new housing units in the city of Rutland possible. Without this local funding, the numbers would not have worked. These projects would not have moved forward. This program has brought new energy and real momentum to the city, and I want to sincerely thank the State Treasurer's Office for the impact that they're making in the 10% in Vermont program. We're grateful for the partnership, and we hope to continue to build that moving forward.
Thank you very much, Ray. And last but not least, I want to introduce Russ Scully with Hula and also the Ride Your Bike project that is receiving one of the largest commitments we have made out of our 10% in Vermont fund, and we hope this is just the start of our commitment and our investment in making this reality, making this a reality. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you. Hey, great to see everyone here. Thank you for coming. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what you already heard today, but it's really great to hear that a lot of the stuff you just heard is stuff that's going on in our project. I want to thank Treasurer Pieciak. I want to say really clearly, no one's been more clear, direct, and supportive of the financing of this project than Treasurer Pieciak has, and from the beginning. I think it really outlines the importance of the 10% for Vermont program, one that I didn't know anything about until we reached out. And Treasurer Pieciak really encouraged us to apply for this program, gave us a lot of confidence that we'd be able to receive some money that we desperately needed at a time in the project, as he pointed out earlier, was very early. This money literally put wind in our sails at a time when we were really struggling to figure out how we were going to pay for this. as everyone has pointed out today already, cost of construction, cost of borrowing money are all huge obstacles to trying to solve a housing crisis. And we're not housing, I never thought of myself as someone who was ever going to get into the housing development business or field or whatever, but we had to, right? So yes, Hula has been an amazing project, an amazing adventure. I think it's done a lot towards building workforce, towards driving economic development for the city and the state. I'm really happy to report that it's working well. There's tremendous job growth that's happening here, tremendous energy that's happening here. There's conversations and collaboration that is just a tremendous value that you can only create by getting all these really bright, entrepreneurial, motivated people together in one place to do that. And as a result, we learned that they all have a common problem, and you heard it stated from everyone up here already. But the biggest obstacle to hiring people is trying to find housing, and it's a scarcity model up here, and it's expensive. Like if we don't have housing, the cost of housing just keeps going up. And there was a moratorium, as we know, for a long time of not building housing, and now we're feeling the effects of that. And so I feel really fortunate that thank you, Bobby Miller, for essentially creating this parking lot right across the street from Hula, which gave us an incredible opportunity. And thank you to the city of Burlington for opening up the idea yet again of potentially putting residential in the enterprise zone. And that was a huge, courageous act. And thankfully that went through. I think everybody was aligned on the need for housing right now. And we're really fortunate that we had a space that could take a big bite out of the deficiency we're facing right now. It's tens of thousands of homes in Vermont, right? That's the number we keep hearing. Tens of thousands of homes. So if we can build 1,200 across the street here, we're doing our part, at least in Burlington, to help sort of eat away at that apple. And I feel like we've done some good work. We're getting close. I mean, we have an amazing development partner, Andrew Foley, who a lot of you have met. He's like a household name in Burlington now. This guy knows more about the inner workings of the city than most of the people who live here. I mean, he is by far the biggest fan of Vermont. This guy was chopping wood in South Hero this weekend. He's embracing this Vermont lifestyle in a big way. I have a feeling one of these apartments we end up building might have his name on it already. I don't know which one he's picked, but I'm kind of curious to know which one you like. Honestly, we'll figure that out. But we've had a lot of great progress. There's still some obstacles, right? We're still facing some finance challenges, as we always will. But it's really encouraging that throughout this whole process, we've really come a long way. And every obstacle we've hit, we've found a solution. So we're like inching our way closer and closer. We're really getting through this process. And thank you for the support of the mayor and the city of Burlington, who's a property owner. They're our partner in this project. They also own property abutting our parcels on the south end of the parcel, which is really helpful. Big win, right? We filed for our permits a couple weeks ago, our building permits. And we've had our first design advisory board meeting, which I heard went really, really well. This project has the potential to be a model for the beautiful relationship between public and private partnerships and what can be accomplished when everyone's aligned on a goal, on a common goal, which right now is obviously housing. We got to figure this out. We compete with other states, we compete with other cities for workforce, for talent, for companies, for entrepreneurs. People have a choice of where they want to live and where they want to work and where they want to start their company. We don't want to create any obstacles for those people to come here. And cost of living is a big one. As we know, a lot of people spend a big chunk of their income on housing. If we want to get more competitive and we want to make a big difference in bringing really bright people here, the best thing we can do is lower our cost of living. So how do you do that? You got to increase supply. We have to increase supply in housing. If we can increase supply in housing and housing costs come down, watch out. Look what could happen here, right? It can. And we're on our way there. We're doing it. This project it's a big, bold project, yes, but it's very doable. And so far, it's looking good. I mean, the sports analogy, I think we're inside the 20 or something. We're in the red zone for sure. I don't know why they call it the red zone. The red zone sounds like a negative. I think it's like the green zone. We're in the green zone, right? I think you're only looking at the red zone if you're playing defense, right? I think that's the only one playing defense right now is any coalition that we're not aware of that's trying to defend parking lots from housing developments. And those don't exist yet. So fortunately, there's a lot of alignment here. There's a lot of encouragement. There's a lot of people who are really excited to see this happen. And I'm just grateful that we get to play a part in that. And I'm really grateful that we we have the space and the place and the vision to help execute and make that happen. And it couldn't have happened with all the people you heard from today. And especially, I want to give a quick shout out to Mario Weinberger, who joined our team early on. He helped us really tackle a couple of big public infrastructure problems that resulted in the formation of Let's Build Homes, that's had a lot of success and doing a lot of really great work to build houses outside of Chittenden County, across the state, right? Because we got to tackle this statewide, right? So we've got some early success, and we'll be we'll be shovel ready in September. So I mean, this is really creeping up. Like, we're getting really close to launch time here, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to the results. And I can't thank this team up here enough for all their support, and particularly the treasurer. Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for coming. And yeah, Godspeed. We're almost there.
Thanks, Russ. Well, thank you, Russ, and again, thank you all for coming here today. Every time we have a guest that visits Vermont, whether it's the rating agencies or representatives from the federal government or business owners or business executives, we always bring them to Hula because we say, look at this vision, look at this facility, look what Vermont can be. And I look forward to similarly bringing them to the housing development to say, again, we can do this in Vermont. We can grow in a way that supports our environment and business goals. And I look forward to when that day is a reality. Thank you all for being here today. For those in the media that are interested, I think maybe we'll just step over here if there are questions, but enjoy the food and the coffee and everybody's friendship. And again, thank you for being here with us. Thank you.